Definition of domestic violence. Domestic violence, also known as domestic abuse, spousal abuse, battery, family violence, dating abuse, and intimate partner violence, IPV, is a pattern of behavior which involves the abuse of one partner against another in an intimate relationship, such as marriage, cohabitation, dating, or within the family. Definition of domestic violence. Domestic violence can take many forms, including the following. 1. Physical aggression or assault, such as hitting, kicking, biting, shoving, restraining, slapping, throwing objects, and battery. 2. Verbal abuse or threats of violence. 3. Sexual abuse, both forced and withheld. 4. Emotional and psychological abuse. 5. Controlling or domineering behavior, controlling the other party's relationship, time, and activities. 7. Intimidation. 8. Stalking. 9. Passive abuse, such as neglect. 10. Economic privation. 11. Financial abuse. And last, withholding of children. The Center for Community Solutions defines relationship abuse or domestic violence as assaultive or controlling behavior done on purpose and repeatedly by one person to their partner or ex-partner in a way to have power and control. Domestic violence is the willful or unlawful use of physical force. Domestic violence does not have to include an injury. Domestic violence includes placing another person in fear of their safety. The abusive partner and domestic violence. It is important to remember that anger and violence are not the same thing. Anger is an emotion, and violence is a behavior that expresses that emotion. Domestic violence knows no boundary. Domestic violence knows no gender, social, economic, or cultural boundaries. Anyone can be a domestic violence perpetrator, and anyone can be a domestic violence victim. Intimate partner violence. Many scholarly studies report that in relationships with dynamics of control and oppression, the violence often takes multiple forms of physical and non-physical abuse taking place together. Overall, 24% of individuals have been assaulted by a partner at least once in their lifetime. Statistically, 25.3% of individuals have perpetrated intimate partner violence, or IPV. Rates of female perpetrated violence are higher than male perpetrated violence, 28.3% versus 21.6%. Among large population samples, the breakdown of intimate partner violence is as follows. 57.9% was bidirectional, i.e., both parties committed intimate partner violence. 42% was unidirectional, i.e., one party committed intimate partner violence. Of that, 13.8% of the unidirectional violence was male to female, and 28.3% was female to male. A Center for Disease Control CDC study found that 60% of the victims of severe physical domestic violence were women and 40% were men. Impact of intimate partner violence by gender. When severe aggression is perpetrated, i.e., punching, kicking, using a weapon, rates of injury are much higher among female victims than male victims, and those injuries are more likely to be life-threatening and require a visit to an emergency room or hospital. However, when mild to moderate aggression is perpetrated, i.e., shoving, pushing, slapping, men and women tend to report similar rates of injury. Victims of physical abuse experience more physical injuries, poorer health, psychological disorders, and poorer mental functionings compared to non-victims. These effects are generally greater for female victims compared to male victims. Martin S. Fiebert of the Department of Psychology, California State University, Long Beach, states that consensus in the field is that women are as likely as men to strike their partner, but that, as expected, women are more likely to be injured than men. Not much is written on the issue of women batterers and male victims, largely because of the perception that men are physically stronger and should be able to subdue a female attacker. The men that report physical violence are more likely to face social stigma by being ridiculed by law enforcement and the public. Takeaways, Part 1. Statistics show that both men and women are batterers and both men and women are victims.